Hi there, YouTube. My name is Lindsay, in case you didn't know me. And this is my first time making a YouTube video. A couple of my friends have suggested that I should make a YouTube channel because they think I'm an interesting person, and I've been through quite a lot, health-wise and just stages throughout my life. And this is first couple videos. I don't know if I'm gonna have to do part 2 or not, but the first video is at least gonna be my story of my health journey. I am 26 years old, and just decided that I will give you a little bit of a rundown, and I hope you enjoy. And if I apologize in advance if this is long or I don't really edit well or anything, bear with me. Like I said, I'm new to this. I'm not a YouTube creator. I'm not an influencer or anything like that. This is just something to raise awareness and get my story out there and maybe encourage somebody who's going through some stuff. So anyway, like I said, my name is Lindsay. I was born and raised in Florida, and first off, the most important thing that I want to say is that I am a Christian. I'm a born-again Christian, and I was raised in a godly household, and my faith is very, very important to me, in my relationship with the Lord, and has had a big impact in my life these past couple years. I wouldn't be where I am today without the Lord. And if you all have any questions about that, or questions on whether or not you know for sure if you're gonna go to heaven when you die, or if you just want to ask questions in general, leave them in the comments or message me. I'd be glad to talk to you more about that. Anyway, I'll give you a quick rundown of my childhood and get going. Try to go through as fast as I can without being confusing. So anyway, like I said, I was born and raised in a godly household, a Christian household. I was homeschooled all the way up through high school, and our homeschool group was registered with the state as a private school, so we would have to turn in grades and hours. And so a lot of people who think the homeschoolers don't socialize or they don't do that very much work, I'm going to debunk that myth right now. We actually had quite a bit of work, just about as much as everybody else in public school, and we had to do that if we wanted to get a diploma when we graduated, and if we wanted to graduate, I'm sorry. And so we were kept quite busy. The first 12 years of my life were pretty uneventful. I had some GI issues, but not too bad. We just went through life and learned how to live with it. When I was 12 or 13, I started getting migraine headaches pretty frequently, and we couldn't find out the answer for a long time where they were coming from or why. We tried braces. When they put the braces on, the headaches went away. When they took the braces off, they came back. I got my wisdom teeth out. That didn't help. And so, but we thought, the dentist thought it was a TMJ issue, and that actually turned out to be what it was. So we went to an oral surgeon, and he put me on a regimen of like a soft diet and heat and everything to get my jaws to relax. And for about a year there, in 2012, when I was about 15 or 16, it dissipated. And so that was like the last normal year. And then in 2013, I started having some pain on my right lower abdomen, and we didn't know exactly why. Sorry if you hear background noise. My husband just got home from work. But yeah, so this is 2013. I just started having some like lower abdomen pain, and again we went through a whole bunch of scans and blood work and lab work, and nothing came back eventful. There's nothing there wrong that they could see. We checked out to see if there was a cyst on my ovary with an OBGYN. There wasn't, but he said it could be an appendix, issue. So if it gets worse, go to the hospital, obviously, because it could be dangerous. So, also, sorry, some of the medication I take causes dry mouth, so I have to kind of drink some water. Sorry. But, so we went, sure enough, the pain came back. We went to the ER at a local hospital, and I was 17 at the time, and they did a CT scan, and they thought I had appendicitis. So, but they couldn't do surgery because they didn't have a pediatric surgeon on call or anything like that, because I was 17, not 18. Nobody, unless it was a pediatric surgeon, would do the surgery. So I had to be transferred to another hospital where they had an OR waiting for everything. And so we go in there, we're waiting to literally be wheeled back to surgery. And the trauma surgeon comes in and says, hang on, let me go look at those scans real quick, the CT scans that they took at the other hospital. I said, okay. And like I said in the beginning, all my life I kind of had some GI issues, and just kind of going through life, not too severe. My mom had taken me places when I was little, but they just said change your diet or get her potty trained and she should be fine. So nothing really came of that. So when the surgeon came in and said, hey, let me ask you a question. Have you ever had any GI issues in your life? We started just kind of laughing, and he said, I'm going to take that as a yes. And he said, I don't think you have appendicitis, and I'm going to tell you why. He's like, I can't see your appendix. It's not there on the scan. He started drawing out on a whiteboard what your intestinal tract is supposed to look like. And if you don't know what it looks like, it's like the large intestine's kind of like a square, and then there's a small intestine's kind of inside of it. You can just kind of look it up if you want to. And that's what he said, is what normal looks like. And so we're thinking, oh no, what is it? And so he said, this is what yours looks like. And he starts just scribbling through the whiteboard. And so he's like, it's called intestinal malrotation. It's a birth defect. And so rare, he said it's rare enough that I was his only second case he's ever seen in his 30-year career. And so he said you need to get to a GI surgeon to get that fixed, and maybe a rheumatologist as well, because my mom has an connective tissue disorder, and it can be hereditary. And so they thought I should go to a rheumatologist as well. So we leave that hospital next couple days. We find a GI doctor in my hometown, and I've never seen a doctor's face change so fast. When he saw my scans, because they transferred over to him, he was laughing and happy, as he was coming in the room, and all of a sudden he looks at it and his face just goes and so we're like, what? And he's like, you need to get to a surgeon. You need to get to a surgeon right now, because your intestinal tract is not connecting down at the bottom, and it's kind of moving. And the risk of this disorder or this birth defect is it twisting. The intestines can twist up and cause a blockage, what's called a volvulus, and that can be deadly because it's blocked and nothing can get through. So he said, you need to get, if you don't have an appointment with a surgeon or a GI doctor in a week, we'll make one for you. But again, the problem was I was 17. Nobody in that area would do the surgery because I was still a pediatric patient, considered that. But turns out to be one of the best things. My mom researched hospitals, and she picked Memorial Children's Hospital in Orlando because they were the only one that had a rheumatology department. Eventually we want to check that down the road. And so they had a rheumatology department, and we made an appointment with a GI doctor there, but the soonest they had was 3 months out. And so we called the doctor here and said, hey, that's the appointment we got. And the receptionist literally said, nope, you don't need that you don't need just a regular GI doctor, you need a surgeon. We canceled that appointment for you and made an appointment for you for next week with the chief of surgery over there. And literally my mom had just hung up, and so it's like, okay. So we ended up going over to Nemours on, I think it was November 23rd. September 3rd, 2013. And so we see the chief of surgery over there. His name is Dr. Burns, and he was surprised at the fact that we were even able to see the intestinal malrotation on a CAT scan or CT scan, because normally what you have to do to find it, he said, is what's called a barium swallow test, where you have to drink this thick, like chalky solution type stuff, and it, as it goes down into your tract, it highlights the intestinal tract, and so they can see where your intestines laid out and stuff like that. So he's like, how on earth did you find that scan? Like, we never, that usually is like impossible. And I was like, we're just thinking that was a God thing, because we had no idea. We were like, I don't know. And so he said, obviously I want to, confirm this is what it is before we do surgery. And so he did one of those barium swallow tests. Those are kind of gross. I wouldn't recommend that. But he saw it, and he said this is a classic case of intestinal malrotation. We are kind of obligated to do surgery now because of the risk of it twisting up and blocking. And normally babies get this, and they find out when they're like newborns, because they can't eat, they're like throwing up and stuff like that. Me, I was 17, going through my life, and pretty much could have died anytime, and I had no clue. And so that was kind of freaky to know that was there. And so he decided, he said, if there's any, we set the date for September 30th for the surgery. He said, but if you have any pain at all or anything, you need to come here, because if you go to ER over where you're from, they're just going to transfer you here. So lo and behold, a couple nights later, I think it's like the 16th or 17th of September, started having really bad pain. And of course, stuff always happens at night and when the doctor's not on call, or the weekend. So it was nighttime and Dr. Burns was not on call, but his partner was, and they looked at scans. They did scans and said that there's no emergency here, but why don't you guys just wait here until Dr. Burns gets here in the morning and you can talk to him. We're like, okay. So we're in the ER all night long. And Dr. Burns comes in and says, yep, there's nothing like emergent that we need to do that's like scared, but you're going to kind of feel this way, kind of achy and nauseous and stuff until we get it done. So why don't we just admit you today and just do the surgery tomorrow? And I was like, well, that's like 2 weeks early. He was taking his day off to do the surgery. And I said, okay, we'll do that. And so next day rolls around, they admit me in the hospital, and they do the surgery, and it was really cool as they did it laparoscopically, and instead of having to do a long incision all the way like down my stomach, he just made 4 little like pinhole looking things, and used that, and no, they can't put the intestines back to where it originally should be, but he put it in a way where it wouldn't twist up again. And I have a before and after picture of the scans, and it's interesting because they were like all bunched up, and now he kind of like stretched it out. But anyway, about 2-hour surgery, he comes out to my parents and says, well, it's a good thing that we did this 2 weeks early, because there was a twist starting, like it was starting to block in that area where it was hurting actually. And if we would have waited for 2 weeks, it would have been too late, and you probably would have died. And I was like, well, that's another God thing. That's amazing that pretty much saved my life. Did save my life, and I thank the Lord for bringing me to that doctor. I'm just gonna brag on him for a second. He is one of the best and like wisest doctors I've ever seen ever. Anybody who is his patient in the future is blessed to have him, because he's like really, really nice guy, and also really just knows what he's doing. And so he even left Nemours a few years back to go operate on babies up in Indiana. So that kind of tells you what kind of guy he is. Like, it's pretty cool, that kind of thing. And anyway, so surgery went well. Like, it was fine. Laparoscopic way was a lot easier to heal from. So I had to be in the hospital for a couple days, and I got discharged, and sorry, my legs are falling asleep. I apologize. And so I got discharged. I'm thinking, okay, cool, like, done. Like, that's the last of the health issues. I can get back to this. This was all in the middle, like, of 17. So I was like trying to get through homeschooling and schooling to be able to graduate and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, okay, we can get back on track. We had to have so many credits and hours, obviously, to be able to graduate, and I was like way behind. So I thought, okay, wait, this is over, praise the Lord, we're done. Well, no, that didn't actually happen. After the that surgery, I still kept having pain in that same place. And he said this is like a month or two after surgery, and Dr. Burns is like, you shouldn't be having pain this long. We're going to do some more tests and see, but I'm going to hand you over to a GI doctor there. And what's cool about their doctors over there was that they're all like bunched together, so they could communicate with each other without having to like call different offices and like adult doctors. They just all worked together, which was pretty cool. And it was cool because like he sent me over to the best GI doctor he thought of. And what was touching was, before I went over there, the last visit I had with Dr. Burns, he said, I'm sorry, with tears in his eyes, he said, I'm sorry I couldn't fix everything. I mean, this guy just like saved my life, like that kind of. He's upset that he couldn't take all the pain away, and that was just it's really sweet. And so we see the GI doctor for a little while, does some testing. Come to find out, he thinks it's on my gallbladder. So like 3 months after my intestinal surgery, actually New Year's Eve, they decided to take the gallbladder out. They couldn't exactly see it, but they said that's the only thing we can think of that's what's going on with it. That's why. Because whenever I ate, the food would pass through that section and it would hurt really bad. So, and usually it's an outpatient procedure, so I get to go home and all that. And well, Dr. Burns decided to keep me because I had it was only like a couple months after my original intestinal surgery, so he wanted to keep an eye on me, make sure everything was okay overnight and stuff like that. And thank goodness we did, because I was in a lot of pain after that surgery, actually worse pain in that surgery than my intestinal surgery, which is interesting. And that's just to remove the gallbladder, and he used the same little holes that he used before to do that, to get the gallbladder out. But the thing is, he said that once they figured out it was the gallbladder, they just switched me back over to Dr. Burns again. And so they took it out, and they usually look at the gallbladder to see if there was anything wrong with it after they do that. And he said no, it looked perfectly fine. I guess it just wasn't functioning correctly. And we're like, okay, well, whatever. But I was able to eat after that, so I knew that's what it was. So I'm like, okay, now, because we were in the hospital on New Year's Eve, and we could see the Disney fireworks out our window. It was pretty cool because it's in Orlando. And so, But yeah, we stayed overnight, and then my 18th birthday was like the 4th of January 2014. And so I was recovering from surgery from that, story of my life. But anyway, so they sent me home, and I'm like, now we're done. That's awesome. Like, now, okay, that could be the last thing. We're done. Psych. Nope. I just kept having, after surgery and stuff, it wasn't necessarily my stomach, I just kept having really bad fatigue, and I just wasn't feeling good, and just really exhausted and tired, and there wasn't, the doctors were stumped, they didn't know why. So we thought that was a good time to go to the rheumatologist and maybe see if I had what my mom has. And so we went to see dermatologist, which is at Nemours, and he did some blood work to test for what my mom has, and that came back negative. But he said, well, I don't think you have like an arthritis condition and stuff like your mom has, but I think you have what's called dysautonomia, and I'm going to send you to a cardiologist. And we're like, what? Why? Why is a cardiologist coming involved? Like, why? And I'd never heard of this disorder before. And he also had, like, he said I had a hypermobile joint syndrome, like really flexible type thing. And I said, okay. And hypermobility joint syndrome is what it's called. So we went to the cardiologist there. I looked up the symptoms of dysautonomia, and I had about, out of the 50 that they had listed online, I had about 30 of them. And basically what dysautonomia is, or POTS disorder, dysautonomia is an umbrella term for a dysfunction in your autonomic nervous system. So you have your central nervous system and your autonomic nervous system, and the autonomic, or they call it the automatic nervous system, controls everything that you unconsciously do that you don't think about. Your heart rate, your blood pressure, your GI system, like everywhere. Where is your nervous system? It's literally everywhere. And so you don't think, okay, the heart needs to go beep, beep, beep. It just does it. That's okay. Blood pressure, you don't think to keep that down. Your body just does it. So anything automatic, pretty much any organ at any time is what they told me can be affected. And the main symptoms I was having were the headaches were still kind of there. Some GI issues, the fatigue was overwhelmingly bad. Really dizzy standing up, but then my blood pressure would skyrocket right after standing up. So we went to the cardiologist, and at the end of the visit, my mom said, so do you think she has, and before she even got the word dysautonomia out, he was shaking his head yes. So I got diagnosed with dysautonomia on April 25th, 2014. And so that we learned can be lifelong, because I asked him, like, can I grow out of this? Will it go away? What triggered it? And at the time we thought it triggered that the trauma of it can be basically like sets your nervous system out of whack. Something does. And so it can be a viral illness like the flu, or like mono, or something like that. It could be trauma like surgeries or like accidents or anything like that. Well, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention in 2012 I had mono, and I never really got completely over the fatigue. It was just a little bit there in the background, but I just thought, they said mono can stay dormant in your system for a while, so we just thought it was that. And so we put the pieces together, and it causes organs to not function correctly. So when they took my gallbladder out, it was normal, because most likely the nerves in that area were causing it not to work correctly. And so another interesting fact is, I'm just going to insert in facts here and there as I think about them. I still deal with like brain fog and memory issues, so if I backtrack, just, like I said, bear with me, I'm new at this. So because it's been a while, and but anyway, your gut or your intestinal system and stuff has basically a second, what they call like a second hub. Like your first hub of nerves is like your brainstem and your spine and all that kind of stuff, and then there's almost like a second nervous system in your GI tract. And so it could cause the food that you eat to move through too fast. It could cause it to slow down, called a disorder called gastroparesis, where some people have it, so bad where they doesn't move food through at all, and they need feeding tubes and stuff, and it's really bad. Thank goodness I don't have that bad. But it can cause all this type of GI upset and all this, bunch of stuff. So that's like the gallbladder was fine. And so it was the dysautonomia was causing it not to function correctly. And then I had really bad brain fog, just can't get the right words out. Just really tired. And the headaches, and like I said, just no energy, and it's not normal for an 18-year-old to feel like that, and so he officially, we did a couple more tests. The cardiologist wanted to see what type of dysautonomia I had, because like I said, that's an umbrella term, and there are different types of the dysautonomias that people can have, and they diagnosed me with what's called hyperadrenergic POTS, where POTS is an acronym for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Basically, long words for posture. When you change your posture, your orthostatic, your blood pressure, tachycardia is fast heart rate, goes high or low. Most people with the common type of POTS, they stand up and their blood pressure drops, and the nervous system doesn't tell the blood to pump up correctly like it should, so all the blood pools and they pass out. Well, mine does the opposite of that. It skyrockets high. And so the other type of POTS is easier to treat, because all you have to do is keep the salt and water and stuff, electrolytes up to keep your blood pressure up enough. Mine's harder to treat because it goes high. I have to be on blood pressure medications and something to help my pulse rate go down. I'm talking the one time with the highest my blood pressure and pulse rate got was normal. By the normal range, your heart rate should be around 60 to 80 beats a minute when standing or sitting, and then your blood pressure should be 120 over 80. Something around that area. Okay. When I stood up, my blood pressure went to 150 over 104, something like that, and then my pulse would go to 200, and it would just stay that way, because basically my body goes into, the nervous system is telling it, red alert, red alert, red alert, we're gonna die because you stood up. We're going into fight or flight mode. You only need the fight or flight mode and the adrenaline when you're being chased by a tiger, which I'm not all the time. And that, you've heard of people lifting cars and all that. It's from the adrenaline of fight or flight. Well, my body is sending signals to that every time I stand up. Gravity, pretty much, when I stand up is when a lot of the symptoms come on, because the blood isn't the blood vessels in my legs, the nervous system is not working right to tell it to constrict, to push the blood back up into my brain and my heart and stuff. So therefore, my heart tries to compensate for that and goes faster, which can feel like an internal marathon all the time. Like when you run, you're exhausted and stuff like that. Well, that's pretty much what my body does all the time by standing. And so, but the thing is, you can't see it. If you looked at me on the street or you didn't know me, I don't look sick to you. They call it an invisible illness for a reason, because it's invisible. And, I've gotten questions and concerns and why haven't you just pushed through it? Why haven't you tried this or tried that or try? If I had a penny for every time someone said go gluten-free, I'd be rich. It has nothing really to do with your diet. It's all really to do with the management of the blood pressure and stuff like that. And so anyway, we got that diagnosis in 2014, and it took a while to get on some medications. It's just a trial and error thing. And it takes a lot of patience to even try to see what's going to work and what's not. A lot of patience because I was really sick. I think it was about 2 years I didn't really leave the house until unless we went to the doctor or something, because my body, it also controls the nervous system, also controls your sweat and your cooling, your internal temperature of your body. My body doesn't cool down right. I'm very sensitive to the heat. I can get heat stroke really easily going outside. And I lived in Florida, which was the worst state to live in for this. So basically I stayed inside all the time. Because when I would get up and walk around, I would just start sweating for no reason inside the house. It was pretty bad. Even my doctor had said, when I left Nemours, when I aged out, he said, you looked really, really sick. And, I just was, I was really bad. And so he had put me on this regimen, and after that diagnosis, I kind of got started into a little bit of a depression because we kind of tried to do school longer. We pushed back my graduation to see if I could graduate in 2015 instead of 2014. And it just wasn't happening because of the brain fog and the headaches and the fatigue. You just can't think. The best way I can describe is if you guys have ever had the flu or you're sick and stuff, that just, I don't feel good feeling. I can't think. I just want to sleep feeling. That is exactly what I have all the time, 24/7, but multiplied by 10. So school with that, I just got frustrated because I couldn't, reading comprehension and stuff. I mean, I know how to read and stuff. It just wasn't sinking in. And I had 2 math credits and 3 English credits to get done in a couple months, and we just couldn't. So our principal of the school said, listen, why don't you guys just stop? And Lindsay, you can get your GED when you are more healed up, and when you feel like you're ready. And at first I hated that because meant I wasn't going to graduate and I wasn't going to get to, do the whole cap and gown thing. But then it kind of set in that I'm wow, it took a load off our shoulders, because every day I would always be well, what if I tried to do school more? Why did I not try enough? Or should I have tried harder? Should I push myself? Should I not? And my mom was kind of do I push her or do I not? Because she knows how it is a blessing to have a mom. We don't like that she has a disorder too, but it's a blessing to have a mom that knows what it feels like to have a chronic illness and to live with it. And she got diagnosed with her disease around the same age I did. And so our stories kind of line up, and she really gets the fatigue and stuff. She knows what it feels like, and she knows how to navigate through that. And so it was a blessing to be raised that way with a mom who knew what it felt like. Because some doctors said it's all in your head. You don't need this, you don't need that. It does look like anxiety. It does. You see me, and you can see me twitch and shake and stuff, and that's just from the adrenaline and side effects of some medication. I'm not nervous. A lot of people think I am, but I'm not. I'm just, if you ever see me kind of twitching or moving or looking up, I'm trying to think of stuff. I'm sorry if I look up more. It means I'm trying to think of stuff. It's just the part of the disorder, it's just how it happens. And so I had to be put on a beta blocker, a couple different other medications to slow the heart rate down, because the heart rate wasn't going down. Even the blood pressure was fine, but the heart rate was just like, you could feel your heart just beating out of your chest kind of thing. That's what it felt like. And I was getting palpitations really bad, where like when you do really intense exercise, you can kind of feel it in your head, like your heart beating. That's how I felt. I can feel my heart beating throughout my whole body, and I could take my pulse rate without having to touch my neck or my wrist or anything. I could just count it, and so they got me on some different meds. I mean, I'm on like 10 different medications right now. Way too many, but it's managing it for right now. I asked the doctor who diagnosed me if this is life-threatening or not, because, it involves the heart, it involves the blood pressure. That means some stuff you don't mess with, that kind of stuff. And he said, well, no, not really. It's not dangerous unless you do nothing. If you do absolutely nothing, he said, eventually the blood pressure would get high, really high, to like stroke level. You could have a stroke and stuff like that. And so people say you should just go all natural, get off all these medications. And like, heck, I would if I could, man. I don't like taking a handful of meds every single day, but if that's what's keeping me alive, it's keeping me alive. Like there's, God made doctors, he made physicians, and he made medicine too as well, And so anyway, it was good that we had an answer. It took about 4 or 5 months or about a year to get an answer to what it was, what the diagnosis was. And that's relatively short, because a little unknown fact, it usually takes on average about 6 to 8 years for people to get diagnosed with dysautonomia or POTS, because doctors don't really know about it, and it's really easy to diagnose if they can know what to do. But 6 to 8 years is way too long, and it can drive you crazy thinking that you're crazy. When there's something wrong, but everything is like normal, because it mimics so many other disorders. So they test for all of them, and nothing, and like lupus and all this kind of stuff, it comes back negative. So they're like, oh, it's anxiety, go to a psychiatrist, and I'm like, no, something's wrong here, like I know my body, your body better than anybody. So I encourage anybody who's going through that to be your own best advocate. You have to push for what you need. If you need something from the doctor, you gotta push for it a little bit. And I don't like conflict or anything either, but they're not gonna chase you down and say, hey, this is what we need to do for you, whatever. You have to stay on top of it. And I'm still learning that, obviously. But so yeah, anyway, on a side note from my health issues before that, I was really big into martial arts. I am a first degree black belt recommended in Taekwondo, and that was like my favorite thing to do before I got sick, was martial arts, and highly recommend for anybody wanting to get into it. I love it. It's fun. It teaches you discipline, and you can punch things legally, like not people, but like bags and stuff. But that was the hardest thing, was I was one test away from getting my black belt, and that's when I got mono, and they told me to not do any contact sports because my spleen was enlarged and stuff like that. And so I never was able to go back consistently because of how much energy it took. Another thing that comes with the dysautonomia is the exercise. It's called exercise intolerance. Actually, you try to exercise, and my body will not get used to it, and could cause a migraine. It causes migraines like every time I do it might feel okay in the moment, but then after you're done and the day after that, it's just like I'm just dead. Like I'm exhausted, out for a couple of days, like that's it. And so I had to make adjustments, and to this day my black belt is still hanging on the wall. My instructor went over to Korea. She's like one of the highest instructors in the whole company called ATA, American Taekwondo Association, and when she went and tested for her 8th degree, she got my belt made with my name on it, and it's hanging up on the wall for motivation to do it, to feel whenever I'm able to physically go back. So far I haven't been able to, just, I don't know if I will, but that's like one of my goals in life is just to be able to get that. So they call me a black belt now, but I'm just like, I want the full title, and that was one of the hardest things, because that was like, I love doing that 3 times a week. Like, it was my favorite thing. And you just get sick and not know it's going to be a 10-year battle ahead of you. It can be hard as a 20-something-year-old to accept that, excuse me. So it hindered a lot of my life, the health issues, like just going to do anything. I had to contemplate, am I going to be able to do anything tomorrow? If I do something today, am I going to be stuck in bed tomorrow because I did an activity today? Or some people might think, listen, you're making it up because you were able to do this activity, but now you can't do this. It's so unpredictable that, like, I can't tell you tomorrow I'm going to feel good. It can change by the minute. Symptoms can come on whenever. Like, it's the triggers for a flare-up, pretty much anything. I mean, any illness, any, like, stress, anything. So it's like I'm kind of doomed, with that kind of thing. And so it's still learning how to cope with that, actually, now, almost 10 years later after diagnosis, which is crazy. Can't believe it's been that long that I've been dealing with this. But so that was kind of like how I got diagnosed with a dysautonomia and POTS. And I'm so sorry, this video is going to be kind of long, so I might do a part 2. For right now, that's how I got diagnosed. And then the next part, I'll talk about how, like, I met my husband, what I'm doing now, and then what the prognosis is, what I'm doing, what I'm up to, and how my life has changed from there. I would go on, but like I said, it's kind of a long story, and this is almost an hour, so I do appreciate if you made it this far to watch it. I appreciate it, and I'm very thankful that you decided to listen to my story. And if you liked it, go ahead and press a like and subscribe. That would be great. And share the video if you would like to. So like I said, yeah, God has been good through everything. I wouldn't be here without him, because I literally wouldn't be here without him. And my family and just everybody around me has just been so supportive when I wasn't very lovable. And so it's been a hard but rewarding journey as I learn how to navigate through this. And so, like I said, 2014, so 2024 will be 10 years since I've been diagnosed, and it's crazy. But yeah, so I'm going to stop there, and I hope y'all enjoyed. Sorry if I rambled. Feel free to skip over any moments or whatever. I'm going to learn how to edit better and all this kind of stuff in the future. But yeah, so thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. Stay blessed, alright?